Hävard, how you doing, man? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There he is. How's it going, brother? It's very nice to meet you. Welcome to I Ask No One.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to turn up the sound.
Sure.
That's all I'm getting. Okay.
All right. So it's 9 o'clock now in Norway, right? It's still bright out. Looks like.
Yeah. It's summertime, you know. So I mean, it'll be bright until fucking I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock.
All
maybe
right.
even more.
Awesome. We're here at episode number 66. I could think of no one else better to take us into the 66th episode than you, sir. And thank you very much. Want to cheers to you and to the continued success of Mortiis. All right. And those balloons back there, this is the first episode since I was engaged on July the 4th. So
congratulations, or I'm sorry, I don't know which one to use.
Thank you. Ashlyn, I'm a very lucky man. Ashlyn's at work. She's at a law firm here in downtown Buffalo. Have you ever been to downtown Buffalo, New York before?
I've been to New York. I think I've been to Buffalo. I think I was there like on the Black tour, possibly.
Okay.
That was a long time ago. Been to New York many times. Buffalo maybe once.
Sure. Yeah, you were in Toronto with Mortiis in 2019. I missed you then, but
where?
Hopefully next time.
Where was that?
This was in Toronto. In 2019.
Right. Yeah, we did a couple of shows in Canada. What was it? Toronto, Montreal, or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful up there, especially in Montreal. But today, I'd like to start off with it's killer up there. Quote of the day, Hävard, is from Conor McGregor. He turns 33. I welcome him into the 33 club tomorrow. But he said after his defeat with Dustin Poirier during the trilogy MMA UFC, he said defeat is the secret ingredient to success. And definitely is. And did you watch that fight? Are you into any sports out there in Norway, Hävard?
It froze.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, just a little.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Do you like UFC? Did you see that Conor fight, or are you into any sports out there?
Not so much. I mean, you see that stuff in the papers, and I noticed that he broke his ankle or something like that in the first round.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why I even know that, but it was in the papers, and I read the papers, so I saw it.
Oh,
and I guess it got to be pretty tough to even finish a round with a broken ankle.
Yeah, it was the final few seconds there, man, and the ankle broke, and it was like shin bone to the floor. It was pretty gruesome. But
shit.
Conor, he'll be back. And fact of the day, I'd like to start with a little fact of the day, my man. I know you're into your 80s electro pop, Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, and all that good stuff. But the number one song in the world in 1985 today, July the 13th, was Duran Duran's "View to a Kill." And
all right, isn't that like a James Bond song?
Yeah, it was the first James Bond song to go to number one. Die-hard Bond fan. Do you like the James Bond movies?
I mean, I grew up on Roger Moore.
Yeah.
So I like those. I mean, for nostalgic reasons. I mean, when I see him now, I kind of go like, shit. There's a lot of effects and all that. It's not that great, But I mean, it was probably the state of the art back in those days, I guess.
Yeah.
So I bought it. I was probably 10, 12, whatever. Back in the mid 80s, and I thought that was cool. I kind of fell out of it. Like, what was it? Timothy Dalton, was that the other guy that came after that?
Yeah, License to Kill and Living Daylights, right?
Yeah, I think actually Aha had one of those soundtracks.
Oh, really?
Living Daylights, isn't that Aha?
Yeah, I'm
pretty sure they had a James Bond soundtrack.
Okay. Yeah,
not sure.
AAJ. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Aha. Yeah. Take on Me. The big hit.
Yes, that's it.
Living Daylights, I think did they had the soundtrack to that one? Unless I'm totally mistaken.
No,
like Oslo band, man.
I think you're right. But that was That's a fun one. Christopher Walken was in it. He was a funny villain, and that was Roger Moore's final Bond. But
right.
July 13th, 1968, a band out of Birmingham called Black Sabbath played their very first show at a small blues bar in Birmingham, which brings me to my first question to you. And,
were they called Sabbath back in '68? Weren't they like Earth or something?
They were Earth. They were Earth.
Yeah.
The website that I usually check for my facts, it said Black Sabbath. So it could have been Earth.
I thought they turned into Sabbath like just a little later. I wasn't even around. I was like 7 years, not even born, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do I know?
Well, right here, right now, we have Hävard ELLEFSEN, professionally known as Mortiis, former, / current bassist of Emperor, and we'll get to that. Emperor, but Mortiis, solo band, a lot of different flavors in his band that he's been rocking and rolling since his exit out of Emperor in the early 90s. But before we get to that, dude, what was the first concert you ever attended? I'm curious.
The first concert I ever attended, that was it's one of those children's shows, I suppose, you know. There's a couple of guys, it wouldn't make any sense to you. They were called Knutsen and Ludvigsen, I think. And they were very popular back in the 70s and the early 80s. They had some, you know, local, actually sort of national hits. But it was pretty much humor based and you know, a little childish and things like that. They were singing about animals in the roof and maybe the king will be joining us for dinner and stuff like that. It sounds completely ridiculous when I say it. I saw them live in 1982. I wish I could have said Venom, you know, in 1982. That would have been a little more hardcore, but I was 7 years old and I guess they were playing in my town and my parents took me or something like that. I mean, seriously though, I mean, I guess the first sort of like hard rock show that I ever went to was around the end of the 80s, maybe 88, 89, which was Tin Drum, which was I believe it was one of the guys from TNT. Remember that hard rock band from Norway?
Yeah, TNT.
10,000 Lovers and Knights of the New Thunder and all that stuff. And one of those dudes had kind of split out and started his own band. So I actually went and saw that. So that was my first proper hard rock show, you know, with smoke machines and light shows and all that stuff. And that was fucking awesome.
Okay.
I was 12, I guess, or so.
Right. My first concert, Backstreet Boys. So maybe it went along with your first concert as far as like the humor goes, right? It was fun.
As far as the pride factor and yeah, I don't know.
Are you a diehard Backstreet Boys NSYNC fan or what? Do you like any of that stuff?
I'm sorry?
Do you like any of the NSYNC Backstreet Boys stuff at all?
No, I do not. I mean,
too poppy,
you know, it's not even a guilty pleasure.
Okay.
I mean, my most guilty pleasure is probably Ultravox or something like that. You know, that's kind of back to, and they were cool back in the day. They were like a sort of like an artsy, almost like a punk band in the 70s, you know, with John Fox as the singer, and then it turned into more like a new wave band with Midger in the early 80s. And I think, honestly, I think that's probably my most guilty pleasure of all. And I'm not even feeling that guilty about it.
Sure. Yeah. Corey Taylor once said, there's no such thing as guilty pleasures, you know, fuck it. You like it, you like it. And Ultravox, I've never heard of Ultravox. I'll check them out, man.
Well, I mean, if you're into the whole new wave thing, you know, with the Duran Duran and all that stuff, and I'm not actually that big of a Duran Duran fan. I don't have any records with them. My wife used to listen to them when I met her, like Wild Boys, I think is one of those. Is that Duran Duran? Yeah, she used to blast it all the time, and I mistakenly thought they were singing White Boys, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm thinking, how could this be a big hit? This is really dubious. This is like, what the fuck are they singing about? This is weird. This can't be okay. Is this a hit? You know, and it turned out to be Wild Boys, of course. You know,
sure.
I think that was Duran Duran, but yeah, I mean, Ultravox, they came out of that whole British sort of new wave scene. You know, Depeche Mode, I guess, came out of that. They were a little darker, I guess, but Ultravox, I always actually liked them better. They were poppier, than Depeche Mode, for example, if you can believe that. They were more catchy.
Yeah, catchier. Okay. Well, yeah, it was around 82. You went to your first rock concert, and were you playing the bass back then or guitar? Were you creating music? I mean, when did
in 82?
Yeah, 82. Maybe not.
Nah, I was 7.
Yeah. All right. So you didn't know Venom yet. So when you got into Venom and when did
I got into Venom, like I've never played the guitar just for the record. I mean, I started playing bass simply because Emperor back in the day needed somebody, and I was the only person in town. And what you got to remember is there was nobody around at the time to play that type of music. It was literally a couple of guys, and that was it. So that's how that happened. But I mean, as far as I guess I got into Venom around maybe 85, 86. When because I was actually into like Kiss and W.A.S.P and those sort of big American image bands back in those days. Yeah, like early Motley Crue and Twisted Sister.
Sure.
All the ones that scream the loudest, I would be into it, and nobody screams louder than fucking Blackie Lawless,
Oh,
or
sure.
Dee Snider, actually, even bigger mouth.
Yeah.
So I was into that, I thought that was awesome, those fucking larger than life fucking characters that they were. And somebody played me a tape of Venom, and I, my ears were in disbelief. My ears were in disbelief.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I heard because he was fucking dark and it was fucking evil. I think what the guy that had the tape play me was in league with Satan. So obviously it was the most ultimate fucking evil Venom song.
Yeah.
And I remember I pretended not to like it, but secretly I fucking thought it was awesome.
Right.
But it fucked with my head because this is raw. This is noisier than W.A.S.P. This is harder than W.A.S.P. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't know there was a fucking underground. All I knew was Kiss and W.A.S.P. and the big selling bands, and W.A.S.P. I thought was the wildest thing on earth. Right. And I realized they weren't. So that was kind of a mind fuck, but I got into it eventually. I started admitting to myself that this is fucking great. And that led me down the whole thrash metal path,
Yeah, Venom. And did you get into Mercyful Fate, Mortiis?
I knew about Mercyful Fate a long time before I heard it. I mean, there used to be a Swedish magazine that sometimes we would be able to get a hold of in Norway. And it was actually called OK, which it sounds like OK, which is also what it means. It's written differently, but that's basically what it means. It was a typical pop mag, but metal was very big in Sweden in the 80s. So half that mag would be W.A.S.P. and Motley Crue and Twisted Sister, all the usual bands. All those bands were great though back in 1984, So, posters and all that stuff. It was a fantastic magazine. And occasionally you'd see these little articles about Venom and things like that. And Venom were making comments about King Diamond, because that was Venom's thing back in the days, to just be rude and obnoxious to everyone.
Yeah.
So they kept slagging off King Diamond to the point where I had to print a photo of him. That's how I discovered King Diamond, and this old when he had the inverted cross and the forehead, the old Mercyful Fate photo.
Right.
And I was like, fuck, who's this guy? And I realized this is from Denmark. But finding his music in order was difficult. So it took a while to actually hear it.
Sure.
But once I heard it, I was hooked, man. I mean, those guys were fantastic players, way better than Venom technically, and as songwriters too, when you think about it. But which is probably why Venom were all probably insecure about Mercyful Fate. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, Venom, geez, I know the first record, that's pretty much it, but brother, Mercyful Fate, one of my all-time favorites. Haven't seen them. They were going to come through Vegas, I think, next year, hopefully. But tell me about the scene, though, in Norway when you were coming up. You said there was just a few people in there. Of course, there was Mayhem that was maybe spearheading the whole thing, and Emperor. Just a few guys.
Emperor, it depends on what time period you're alluding to.
1990, 89.
Well, Emperor didn't exist in 89. Emperor started in 1991.
91, right.
Yeah, when Sabbath and Ishan, because I'd known them since 1988. I went to school with Ishan.
Okay.
And he introduced me to Sabbath, who and because those guys were in a band together, like a thorough heavy metal kind of band. And they started their death metal band right after that, and I started a couple of bands. And then they called me up, or I guess one of them called me up, or I can't remember the detail. This is probably back in early 91. And they said, we need a bass player because we started this side project, because they had their death metal band that was getting rather good. So that was their main thing. but they had started this side project, you know, and it was a little more on the black metal-ish side of things. Not that that was a big topic at the time, because it didn't really exist in a big way, you know. But they called me up and they said, "Yeah, we know you played the bass a couple of times, you know, because I'd done that in my previous band, and we want you to join because there's nobody else." There was nobody else. These were little towns with fucking you know, rednecks and fucking you know, your parents and a couple of blues musicians and you know, regular people, you know, and then nobody gave a fuck about metal. It was just like 3 or 4 of us. So that's how that started, you know. They kind of nagged me for a couple of weeks because I didn't really want to do it. It didn't have a name. It was 2 songs. I remember they played me a tape. It didn't have any lyrics or anything. So I brought some lyrics with me that I had written for the previous band. That became a couple of the songs in the demo eventually. And I gave him the name too, actually. Taken straight off the Celtic Frost mini LP, you know, Emperor's Return.
Oh shit, okay.
That's where we stole that from.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was in 91. I mean, you know, and Mayhem, we didn't know Mayhem at the time. I mean, we were pen pals with Euronymous and a couple of other people, obviously Metallica from Slayer Mag and a few other, you know, some of the Doctrine guys and things like that, you know, and Amputation, and they became Immortal eventually.
Yep.
But there's quite a lot of distance between, you know, all these bands, and you know, geographically, you know, Immortal were way up on the West Coast, and Mayhem were in Oslo, which is a couple of hours away from where we used to live. But back in those days, that was a long way away, you know, for a 14, 15-year-old kid. You know, you got to get on a bus. The bus leaves town maybe twice a day. This is 30 fucking years ago. You know, you don't have buses now. You have buses every 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It didn't work like that back then.
Yeah.
You know,
the town you were in was Nodtrodden. I'm sorry, Toddtrodden.
Notodden.
Okay, that.
Yeah, not even close, man.
Fuck.
Oh, you had the first letter right. Yeah. So I was from that town, and Ishan was from right on the outskirts of it. Just when the farms and the fields start, and Seymoth was about half an hour outside, like in an even smaller village, pretty much like way out in the countryside.
Okay.
So I was kind of the only guy technically actually from Notodden, and the other guys were from outside.
I mean, you guys, I'm a diehard new metal fan. I love my 80s metal. I love all sorts of stuff, classic rock, but you know, there's that black metal a scene that I think Venom started in your mind too, to get that going. And how would you describe black metal? Because I mean, I think Mercyful Fate's got their own kind of style, but did you know, was it called black metal back then? Did you know that something was starting that no one else has ever fucking done
we didn't feel that we started something new, because when we started this thing, our inspirations were mainly like 80s. I would say mainly 80s or European darker thrash and speed metal, like, you know, Hellhammer, who I think they actually kind of played around with the term death metal, to be honest. Hellhammer became Celtic Frost. You probably know that.
Yes.
And you know, German, you know, the sort of Teutonic, you know, what do you call them? There's like the big 4 or the big 3 over the Teutonic thrash metal bands, you know.
Yeah, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth.
Well, that's the big 4 over in the States. And then you got the big 3, I think, in Germany, which are
Sodom,
Crater, Sodom, and Destruction.
Yeah.
And those were obviously like their early stuff, their early couple of first EPs and albums had this really dark topic, like a lot of it was sort of satanic. Yeah. But you could tell that it wasn't really serious though. So I guess what we wanted to do was to take what they did and just make it more serious, make it more real. You know, and I guess some of us went pretty fucking far a couple of years later, you know. And after that, the whole thing just, the snowball hasn't stopped. You know?
Yeah, there's a mystique about it. There's a lore about it. I have credit to my buddy Mike Atlas Lane of Death Metal Pioneers out of San Pedro, California, Detriment, to introduce me to more into your work. And but I love the album artwork here. This is the album artwork in the Nightside Eclipse, the very first Emperor record. This is the one that you were on.
No, I'm not on it.
You're not on it. Well, you wrote the
No.
lyrics. You wrote the lyrics.
I wrote lyrics for a couple of those songs, and there's a mini LP that came out before that.
Okay.
That's got that sort of those riders on the front. It's more like a black and white sleeve with a red logo.
Yeah, sure.
That's the one that I'm on. We recorded that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We recorded that, I guess, like what, December '92. That album, I guess, was recorded a few months later, so at some point in '93. I remember they borrowed my keyboard for it, so my keyboard's actually on the album.
Your keyboard, okay.
Yeah, but I stayed at home.
Okay.
Ishan's playing my keyboard on that album. I think that's the closest I'm gonna ever get to be able to credit myself on anything. Well, and the lyrics, though, yeah.
Dude, there's some badass keys on there, man. There's a song on there, "Cosmic Keys to My Creation in Times." I was just re-listening to the record. It was funny. I knew Hävard was approaching. My time with Hävard, when it started thunder and lightning outside for the first time in weeks, I'm like, all right, we're gonna do it. So metal, man. But
well, the Cosmic Keys song that you just mentioned, that's also on the mini LP. So I play on that version.
Okay, you play on that version.
So I guess they re-recorded that and I Am the Black Wizards. I guess they re-recorded for the Nightside album.
Yep.
We also did that on the mini LP, and then I left the band. Well, actually, I was kicked out because I was a shitty kid back in those days. I was not that easy to hang out with. I was very angry.
Were you, so it was frustrated, like the Mustaine kind of thing, where you just
no, I never got into fights or anything like that. It was just verbal. I was just a douche.
Yeah.
And I was just taking black metal very seriously. So I think that I guess I just didn't really have a sense of humor back then. I fuck around all the time now, because I get bored within 5 seconds and I just start fucking around to entertain myself,
Well, yeah, that song is definitely my favorite. There's my favorite. Don't ask me what the lyrics are. I'm getting there, but it struck me as like a J.R.R. Tolkien kind of reference. Do you like Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I was heavily into that back in the 90s. I read all the books, and then I just sort of expanded into other authors, and I forget a lot of their names now. But like there's a Dragonlance series and Deathgate Cycle series and things like that. All this sort of fantastical stuff, imagination shit. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I don't read a lot of it anymore, but I guess it's because I feel like nothing can really get to that level anyway. I'm probably totally wrong. I'm sure there's some amazing stuff out there that I stupidly haven't given a chance. But I was really inspired by that, especially, you could tell, and the Emperor lyrics that I did for Black Wizards, I guess, and Cosmic Keys to some degree, it's starting to branch into this sort of spaced out stuff.
Yes.
And I got insane with it during the early Mortiis years.
Yes.
For the book that I put out, and everything was very Tolkien-esque,
Yeah, 2001's Smell of Rain, and you came out with the record last year, Spirit of Rebellion. I love that stuff. I actually, as much metal as I listen to, I really love this atmospheric kind of vibe that you put on, man. And that start to finish record type shit, I could just hit play and chill out, kind of like Dark Side of the Moon or Animals or what have you. But I'm
not quite at that level, but thank you.
Yeah, just to start to finish, a record as a whole as an experience.
Cool.
There's two bands that I want to run by you that are similar to Mortiis, as far as like the electronic, jammy kind of ethereal vibe. There's a band, Chino Moreno of Deftones. He has a side project called Crosses. Have you ever heard of Crosses before?
No, but I am notoriously bad at keeping up with anything. I mean, if it wasn't for email and Messenger, I wouldn't even turn my computer on unless it was for making music, to be honest.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I get questions like that all the time. Like, have you heard this? Have you heard that? And fuck, man. I mean, I should, but I haven't.
I'll email you a few songs as a little follow-up from Crosses, and then Greg Puciato, formerly of Dillinger Escape Plan. He has a side project called Black Queen. Really, I feel like you would like those, so I'll share some of those things.
All right.
And one of the things I wanted to bring up to I was looking most forward to bring up to you was your May 2021 live stream that you did with Emperor, man. You came out, so Emperor was performing this record in its entirety, and they went really all out for the live stream. The production was through the fucking roof. Sitting back there, I had Mike Lane out of California right there with me, and we were watching it. But you and Faust, the original drummer from Emperor, came out.
Faust.
Yes.
Frost is Satyricon.
Yes.
But they sound similar, and those guys go way back, man. So I can see why you would mix them up.
Yeah, well,
they're old friends,
man. Dude. Those lights went red, and you guys,
right.
You guys cued Jerry Goldsmith's Ave Satani from 1976's The Omen, and
that's probably Ishan though. That I think that was his thing. I mean, I think
okay.
that was a good call. It was nice atmospheric piece.
Dude, that was like the most metal fucking thing I've ever seen. I've seen Rammstein come out on stage real cool, like Sevenfold, some of these other bands, but the way you guys entered the stage, you definitely had the attention of the viewer, that's for sure. I thought that was so cool. How was that experience going back on stage?
I was pretty nervous, because I mean, I think you introduced me as the Emperor bass player, which is not quite correct. I mean, I used to be, obviously, and I've done this special appearance thing now, and but they have their bass player, who's there, the daily bass player, so to speak,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I got the call from Samad earlier this year, and he said they wanted to do something like that, and I needed a few days to think about it. I thought the idea was fantastic. I really liked it, but I haven't played bass in quite some time. I mean, I work on music every day, but not the bass, I mean, that hasn't been happened for a long time. So I was like, oh fuck, yeah, I mean, I did it back then, but there's no reason why I can't do it now. So I just started rehearsing like a motherfucker, like every fucking day for a couple of months, and I kind of pulled it off. I made a couple of mistakes, but you're nervous. The thing about going on stage, at least in my experience, is that the worst of the whole experience, so to speak, nerve-wracking wise, is the time leading up to actually walking on stage. Once you're on stage, you're fine, a couple of minutes, and it's like you don't really think about it. So, but yeah, leading up to that, I was like, shit, I hope I don't fuck this up. But it was all right. I didn't fuck up too bad.
No, you definitely didn't. Just when you're about to go up on stage, do you have a shot? Do you just, I don't know, do you have a ritual at all that you do?
I tried to hold back on that out of respect for the band, because those guys barely touch any drinks. Me and Faust definitely drink a lot more than they do, than, Ishan and Samad. They're very rigid and professional.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm a lot more laid back about stuff. So I had a few beers before I got on, just to kind of take the edge off. But once I open one beer, it's very easy to open another 8.
Yeah.
So you hold back, obviously. And I've been on stage enough times to tell you that, downing a bottle of vodka or something before you go on is just a really shitty idea.
Right.
I've done that a few times, and those shows have been pretty fucking terrible. So yeah, me and Faust had a couple of beers and just tried to stay calm, and then after the show we got pretty damn drunk though.
Yeah. What kind of beers are you guys having? What kind of beer do you enjoy in Norway?
I mean, mostly I guess we just drink Norwegian beer,
Yeah.
Hansa and Frydenlund and those things. That won't mean anything to you, but
someday.
Those are pretty good. If we're talking import beers, I mean, then I'm into like the ales, the Newcastle brown ale. I think that's pretty popular in the States.
Yeah.
Kilkenny, I don't know if you get that over there.
Kilkenny, we do.
That's a good one.
It's not around too much. Yeah.
No, you don't see it that often. You kind of go. I think you need to go to like a brown pub, like an Irish pub type of place. Then you'll probably get it.
Yeah.
But the Newcastle, I fucking love that. But I think if you drink too much of it, you're gonna get a pretty bad headache. I have a sneaking suspicion.
Right.
Stuff like that. There's all kinds of beers. I forget them now, but
Yeah, I'm a total beer guy, and someday I'd love to go to Norway and taste what you guys got over there. But
yeah,
I want to ask you too. what the themes that you've written about over your career, I would say that they're dark, you know, and there's been maybe a theme of witchcraft, or, you know, Venom had it, Satan. What is your relationship like with Satan and the evil? Does that really fuel your creativity when it comes to writing music?
No, not so much. I mean, you know, even back in the Emperor days, I always thought that it's weird because as a fan back in the 80s, the more satanic a record looked, the more likely I was to buy it. You know, because that it was just something exciting and dark and cool about it. And I was totally this judge the book by the cover kind of guy, like the more fucked up record sleeve, the more I would like it.
Sure.
You know, so obviously I was a big Carcass fan when those old records came out.
Yeah.
Those are fucking
Oh, it was brutal, man.
rough.
Brutal. Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah. But yeah, so as a fan, I mean, I was totally into that. There was just something about the whole satanic thing that made bands more exciting to me. I mean, I can't really explain why, but when it came down to my own creativity, my own output, even that goes even back to the Emperor days. I thought about it a little differently in the sense that, well, if you're going to write about Satanism, then you better fucking believe in it. And I wasn't really into the whole, personally, I didn't see, I wasn't very attracted to the idea of sort of worshiping something as greater than myself. And, you know, as in proper devil worship, which was kind of what people were into back in those days. So I'm not talking about LaVey, Anton LaVey Satanism. That's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
I'm talking about proper, like, fucking witch's hammer, fucking, you know, worship the devil in the depths of hell, Venom style. I just wasn't really into the idea of, like, you know, submitting to something and admitting something to be great. That might be my big ass fucking ego just saying no fucking way. So I was, when it came down to Emperor, for example, I was just more into writing about occult stuff and you know, whatever Celtic Frost or Venom would inspire me to write about, you know.
Right.
So I had two really different ways of thinking about it.
Gotcha.
As I just explained, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know. See, my number one's Metallica. You drew inspiration from Metallica, I take it, right? They had little evil songs that they would cover, Am I Evil, Small Hours, and
yeah, what we didn't realize at the time was that those were cover songs, you know, from old British, you know, new wave of British heavy metal, you know, like Blitzkrieg and Sweet Savage and all those bands, you know.
Right.
We didn't realize that. So but I think out of those sort of big four, I would say Slayer, Show No Mercy was definitely more sort of up our street at the time.
Right.
Because that had all those elements I just talked about in the sense of what I would buy as a kid. You know, it was that fucking goat and a pentagram on the front.
Yeah.
I think it was even like some fire, some flames. And you turn it around and you see these fucking guys, you know, and they're obviously very Venom inspired and you know, they're American and everything's just fucking falling into place. Makeup and fucking spikes and evil has no boundaries and all these fucking cool titles. Yeah.
Magic.
So that was honestly, that was more effective for us than Metallica. Metallica, I actually have been appreciating more in later times.
Okay.
You know.
How so?
I don't actually know. I think it's just I've just broadened my horizons in the sense of what I enjoy listening to and things like that. You know, back in the early '90s, you know, speaking, if you know, since we're on the subject of black metal, I was a lot more narrow-minded. Not everything made it through the filter. Yeah. You know, and Metallica in 1991 was the biggest band in the world, and we thought that was fucking lame. You know, it was like Nothing Else Matters. Those were the days they were doing that stuff.
What the
fuck? You know,
Yeah, Nothing Else Matters. What the fuck is this? 1991 while you're writing this kind of stuff. Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we're listening to fucking Mercyful Fate, you know, Don't Break the Oath, you know, and we're like, which, you know, ironically, Metallica were huge fans of, by the way.
Yes.
So that kind of goes full circle, I guess. But yeah, in later times, I've appreciated Metallica a lot more, and I actually collect some of their bootlegs now and things like that. So, you know, times change, you know, I kind of grew up, I guess, in 30 years.
Oh, very cool. All right. Well, Mortiis, So Mortiis has been your, has been your outlet for a long, long time. For someone that's brand new, that has never heard Mortiis before, is there a record or some songs that you'd recommend they start off on?
I think it really depends on what kind of music you're into, because I've put out a lot of different stuff. I have a pretty broad taste in music, and I like to try things out. So, I mean, if you're into that whole dungeon synth kind of thing, which is what they call it now, I never called my music that. Which is the more sort of somber, electronic, dungeony, sometimes a little epic, other times just very melancholic. It's not even metal, it's just atmospherics. If that's the kind of stuff you're into, I mean, I personally would recommend Spirit of Rebellion, because that's the latest one I made. I made a whole return to that because that was my early sound. Yeah. And I kind of made a return to it. If you're into more the industrial rock stuff, which I've done a lot of that type of music as well, the Great to See album would be the one to try out. I'm very proud of that one. It took me a long time to make, and the bands, I fired people left and right, and I made a lot of I lost friends over it. That was that album that kind of, it almost cost you everything.
Yeah.
I fired managers, and I left labels, and I fucking fired merch people. I fired 2 band members, all during the making of that record. It was fucking painful. But it's a great fucking album.
Yeah, I'll go back to the quote of this episode: "Defeat is the secret ingredient to success."
I suppose you could say, yeah.
Those things that had to happen for you to really feel that. People shit on Saint Anger. Well, there would be no Metallica, Death Magnetic, and so on if it wasn't for that kind of moment. So I'm sure when you listen to that record, you really feel it, and you feel victorious.
There's a lot of feelings.
Yep, I bet.
Anger and fulfillment and all that stuff at the same time.
Do you do yoga or do you meditate at all? Breathing.
I just punch walls.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I see some holes back there in the wall. Oh.
I actually fucking if you hang on one moment.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. Uh-oh.
That happened about 2 hours ago.
About 2 hours ago. What the hell's going on, man?
What
the hell's going on? Are you just
It didn't fucking power up. It was just dead, man. And I was in a rush, and it's fucking hot in this studio, and I was stressed out and frustrated.
Oh shit.
And yeah. I'm just glad I didn't do more damage to other equipment. I was just about to start hitting fucking expensive stuff.
So you're in your studio right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty dark in here because otherwise the light, if I don't turn this down, the light's just fucking ridiculous. So
yeah.
Okay.
And this is in your home studio?
No, actually I rent like a room. It's across town.
Okay.
That's the only reason I'm not drinking beer, because I got to get into my car and drive back home after this.
Good.
So I've been in here all day, and it's so fucking hot. So it's kind of driving me crazy.
Shit, man.
And I had to turn off all the fans because otherwise you wouldn't hear me. So now I'm fucking melting.
Oh, homie. Yeah, we'll be ending this here soon. We got our little window unit. I'm sweating a little bit in this long sleeve. It's a hot one in Buffalo. It's fucking humid here, man.
Yeah, I've heard about like Canada had some crazy heat. Like a week or two ago.
Yeah,
I think over the States too.
Yep, I have a younger brother in Portland, and it was record highs. It's like 110 or something all around the country. Yeah, it's been pretty goddamn hot. Last few while we're on the subject, I wanted to ask you one question that's completely just a whack off, question for such a metal musician. Do you have a favorite ice cream, if you have, or a dessert or something?
No, I'm more the kind of my wife really hates that because I'll just eat whatever I find in the fridge or in the freezer. Okay. She can buy like dog turd ice cream and I'll just eat it. She'll buy weird shit just so I won't eat it, and I'll still eat it. And and the next day she goes ballistic, and I have to go and buy more. So no, I don't really. I'm not really. I know some people like these life lovers. They have like, oh man, I got my 18 favorite dishes or whatever the fuck ever. I'll just, as long as it's not from the fucking ocean, I'll probably eat it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. You have about 3,500 records, I understand. How do you enjoy listening to your music? Sit back, light up a candle, have a beer, or you just cook?
Yeah, I mean, usually, like back in the day when I was younger, I would listen to a lot of music while I was going to sleep. I'd stop doing that for some reason. These days, normally it's just more about me doing like admin shit, whatever, like dealing with emails and dealing with all kinds of whatever, writing messages and just communicating and office work, and I'll just put music on. That's pretty much the only time I have. That's the only opportunity I have in my life, really, to listen to music, because otherwise, beyond that, I'm working on my own music and I can't be playing other people's records at the same time. Yeah. I could, but that would just make me doubt myself, because I would like those records too much and go like, I suck compared to these people. I always get into that fucking thing where I'll put on like a really cool album and I go, oh shit, this is the best album ever. Everything I do is way worse than this. Oh, I'm gonna quit. And then I start smashing stuff. No.
Yeah. Breaking plugs out of the fucking outlets. I heard a quote once: "Comparison kills," and it's really easy.
Yeah, because what you do, what I've done a lot, and thankfully I catch myself doing it sometimes, and I realize it's just stupid, is I can have a piece of music that'll be like 5% complete, and I'll compare that to an album that is finished and mastered by the fucking best people on the planet, and I'll put my shitty fucking little demo up against that. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. You're not done. You know what I mean? But I've done that, and then go like, oh man, I stink. But that's being very unfair to yourself.
Last week I interviewed, had a conversation with Kyle Schutz of a band called The Sword from Austin, Texas, and they opened for Opeth in 2016, and he said similar things like, "Holy shit, these guys are fucking perfect." Do you like Opeth? I mean, they get a little chill and ethereal and.
Yeah, I mean, I've known about Opeth since fucking the dawn of time, and I think they used to be a bit more metal than they are now. Yeah. They got increasingly progressive, which is not really my direction. I mean, I can listen to stuff like Pink Floyd and things like that, because I just go so far back with that music, and it's just fantastic music regardless. I mean, Opeth, I respect them as musicians. I mean, I understand they're fucking technically about as good as they get. But it's not really my style of music, though, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. One last band I want to ask you about, Hävard, Ghost. Do you like Ghost?
Goat?
Goat whore. No, Ghost with Tobias Forge out of Sweden. Ghost BC.
Yeah, I remember people were talking about Ghost when they only had a 7-inch out, and I thought that seemed interesting, and then they just blew up overnight. Got fucking. And I'm thinking, when will Metallica stop taking them out on tour? They toured with Metallica for what, like 10 years?
Yeah, it's been many festivals, European vacations, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about being handed your success. I mean, they deserve it. Visually, the presentation is fantastic when it comes to Ghost, and somebody in that machinery knows what they're doing. So that's for sure. Musically, I haven't heard too much of it. I heard some stuff on the radio, and I thought it sounded a bit like Toto. It was like AOR music. You know what I mean? It's Boston.
It's got to be Dance Macabre that you heard. Very.
That'll be the one. Yeah, and I'm thinking
Jackson almost. It's like.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Oh, Tobias wants to hit.
Yes,
but I don't blame him. I mean, maybe write one song like that, and and you hit, and you never had to write another song like that. You know what I mean? So I can see what maybe he tried doing there. I mean, I'm into some of that kind of music. I like Kansas, and stuff like that, which is a little bit in the same, maybe a little more crude, but still in the sort of AOR-ish area of music. Sure. But no, I like him. I always thought that they owe a lot to Blow Is Your Cult. If you ever heard Blow Is Your Cult, if you haven't, you should check it out.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Tobias must have listened spent a considerable amount of time listening to Blue Oyster Cult, especially the 70s stuff.
Yes. Lars Ulrich of Metallica was recently asked 15 of his favorite metal records by Rolling Stone a few years back. And he mentioned a live Blue Oyster Cult record called On Your Feet or On Your Knees.
That's a live album, right?
Live album, yes.
Yeah.
He described it as dense with a lot of good ones. So that's the one I have. It's a good vibe and totally Ghost, like some BOC back in the day. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, obviously their big hit was Don't Fear the Reaper. Everybody knows that one.
Yep.
But I think that's where Ghost probably picks up a bunch of little, ideas.
Right.
But I think it's a cool band, Again, it's probably nothing I would buy all of it. I mean, I like, the odd song. But I'm more impressed with the presentation, I think. Just the whole visual aspect of Ghost, which is totally, because I'm from fucking, I grew up on Kiss, you know what I mean? So I can completely get on board with the visual end of it.
Yeah, it's a show, that's for sure. And future guest on I Ask No One is Tobias Ford. So I'm looking forward to that chat here, maybe sometime soon. But the last question I have for you, Hävard, and this is just something I thought of. What is the greatest gift of being Mortiis? What's the greatest gift that this music industry, not much of an industry anymore, but what has this given you that you are most proud of over all these years writing and creating?
I think just the being able to develop as a creative person. I'm not a great musician, so I'm not going to say that I'm developing that much as a musician, but I'm developing as a creative person. And to some degree, I think I'm becoming better and better at songwriting. So I guess that's that's related, obviously, closely related to being a musician. Kind of goes hand in hand, But I'm not a technically good musician, I'm okay on a couple of things, but that's about it. As far as the industry itself hasn't really, there's not much to be thankful for when it comes down to the industry, because the industry only cares about itself. They don't really give a fuck about you. They only care about you in as far as what you can give to them. They're not going to promote you out of the kindness of their hearts. They're going to promote you because they think you can make them some money. So, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
And I think it taught me to be able to kind of, look for the pitfalls and be a little smarter next time and avoid some of the worst scenarios. I make it sound like it's a horrible place to exist now, but it's I don't know. I'm very conflicted. I have very conflicted feelings about the record industry, and I've operated on the fringes of it for so long. I haven't been in a proper record deal for a long time, because my experience with that was so abysmally fucking terrible that I've been pretty much DIY since 2005, 16 years. I put out records anyway, and I've toured a fucking lot, so you can still do it. Sometimes it's a little more difficult when you don't have the label backing, like that big machine sort of pushing you and all that stuff. But, at least I make a little bit of money. When I was in a proper record deal, I never came home with money from tours. I always came home with a fucking bill. I owed money when I came back off tour. It's fucking ridiculous. That's not the way it should be.
Right.
You know, I mean, unless you go on tour with fucking Metallica, you're a support act and you don't expect to be making a lot of money. And then you can hope the next tour when you headline, that's when you're supposed to be making some money. You know what I mean? But aside from that, on the smaller tours that I've done, you're not supposed to lose money every time. You're not supposed to fucking go home with an invoice.
Yeah.
That's so that's what that used to be like. And once I became a bit more DIY, I started seeing some cash, man. Funny how that works out.
Dude, you clearly have your own style and I love it. I'm down with it. And you got a tour coming up here, the makeup tour with Mayhem, early next year, right? Through Europe?
Yeah. So hoping for the best for that one. I mean, everybody's getting vaccines now and everything. So I hope and think that this one we're going to be able to fucking do. I mean, it's the third time I think we're announcing the tour. We had to postpone twice, maybe even 3 times. So that was getting fucking frustrating. But, the world is upside down at the moment, and I guess I don't know. It's getting better in the States, right? Pandemic wise.
Definitely is. Definitely is. How's Norway?
Yeah.
How you doing? Did you get
We're okay over here. We're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably heard about the Delta virus. That's the latest fucking mutant strain.
I live under a rock. No, I haven't.
You haven't heard about that? That's been the big fucking talking point now for about, well, several weeks.
Oh, really?
It's the most contagious of all the viruses we know about. It used to be the British variation.
Oh.
A few weeks ago, they discovered there was one that went crazy over in India, and a lot of people died. Oh. India was basically in a state of emergency for a while, and probably still is. And that got out, and that's all over Europe now. So in the UK, it's on the rise again, and Denmark, Netherlands on the rise. Not sure about other countries. Norway, we're kind of okay. But you know, for that tour to happen, I mean, Europe needs to be under control. It doesn't matter if we're okay in Norway. I mean, I want to do the fucking tour.
Right.
I know that's selfish. You know, obviously I'm naturally I'm more concerned about people's welfare in general. But you know, speaking egoistically for a moment, I want this tour to happen.
My twin brother Ryan lives in Athens, Greece. I saw Athens is on that bill, so. If you see this face right up front, it's going to be my twin brother Ryan.
Cool.
But dude, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
And if you found to my viewers, if you liked whatever you saw here, found any value in it, hit a subscribe. For every new subscribe, I make a little donation to the American Foundation Suicide Prevention. I'm on the board. Appreciate the support. Next week, Mike Williams of I Hate God. It's going to be a good one. He's back in town in New Orleans. But
awesome.
Stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, stay heavy. Hävard, have a good night, brother. And
thank you.
You just don't break anything. Just stop breaking shit.
Okay, cool.
See you, bro.
See ya. Yeah, bye.